Okay, folks, we are live. Once again, you're in the studio. We are in. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me. It's August 28th, 2020. It's hard to believe that it's August 28th, 2020 already, but it is. And here we are together once again. So tonight, got kind of a special night for you. We're going to be celebrating the great Charlie Parker. Thank you for joining. Got kind of a special. Going to be celebrating the great Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker's 100th birthday is tomorrow. The great alto saxophonist, and so we're going to celebrate his music tonight. We're going to celebrate his spirit. If we have time, we're going to get into some other stuff as well. Hey, Indiana. Hey, Lori. How you guys doing? Thanks for joining me. And so I'm going to turn this camera around here so you can see me. I might not be able to see you, but I do know you're there. And that's comforting. So here we are in my studio, iTA Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. And very glad you all are here with me this evening. I've got a couple of things I want to do for you here. I found some kind of cool stuff to show you, some old an old magazine with a review from 1957. Charlie Parker passed away in 1955, but I have an old downbeat from 1957 that I'm going to read you the review of this particular record, and so we'll check that out as well. So, yeah, we're going to kind of jump in here. Hey, from New York City, I'm seeing these folks over here. Sal, I can't even pronounce Senor Torres or Senorita Torres. When I was in Brazil, I have no idea how to pronounce that name. C-A-I-O. Thank you for being here from Brazil. And glad you're all checking it out. Or if I was in Canada, I think we have to say checking it out. But we're not. We're here in Nashville, Tennessee. So anyhow, when I was in Brazil, I keep getting a little feedback there. Sorry about that. So I'm going to play a little flute for you tonight. I'm going to play some alto saxophone. Going to talk to you about Charlie Parker. Again, this is Charlie Parker's anniversary of his 100th birth. Out of his 100th birth. The 100th anniversary. Well, let's just say this. He would have been 100 years old tomorrow. Charlie Parker was born in 1920, August 29th of 1920. Charlie Parker passed away March 12th of 1955. Charlie Parker was 34 years old when he died. And hey, New Brunswick, Canada. How you doing? Dickerson, Tennessee. Cincinnati, Kentucky. Hey, from Boston. All right, y'all. Thanks for being here. As you might be able to see, I have a Charlie Parker record behind me right here. I'm going to show this to you. This was a gift a number of years ago, and what a cool record cover. And that's Charlie Parker there. I don't even know what year this was put out, but this was Dial Records. It's called The Great Sides of Modern Jazz LP Series, and I guess this was number 201. It's pretty groovy. They got some great stuff listed on the back also, some different artists. Charlie Parker, volume 1 and 2. So yeah, this was the first one. This was number 201. And then number 2 here, number 3. Also had some Dexter Gordon. Errol Garner, the great pianist, and the maybe the greatest piano player of all time, Mr. Art Tatum, on this series. Dial Records, they gave the address is 520 West 50th, New York, 19N. I have no idea what that means, but it's kind of like those old phone numbers, you know. But anyhow, Charlie Parker. Looks like there's an acorn on his head there. I'm not quite sure what that is. Maybe it's supposed to be a beret or something. I don't know. But it's pretty great. And hey from Argentina, and Marco in Italy, Milwaukee and Southern California, Iowa, London, Ohio, Newtown, Connecticut. Thanks for being here, everybody. And oh, Chickapig's on here. Hey, Chickapig. What's up, Brian? Hope you guys are doing well. So anyway, so Charlie Parker, born in 1920, August 29th, 1920, passed away in 1955, March 12th of 1955, at the age of 34 years old. His body was ravaged by alcohol and drugs, heroin primarily. And it's hard to believe that he was 34 years old when he passed. And he has such a legacy, maybe the most influential saxophonist to ever play. That may be an arguable point, but I think it'd be kind of hard to argue it, quite honestly. Charlie Parker changed the way that we all play. He changed the way Sonny Rollins played the instrument. He changed the way that John Coltrane played the instrument. Changed the way that Ornette Coleman played the instrument. Changed the way that Cannonball Adderley played the instrument. The list goes on and on. There are none of us today, I would wager, who are not under the influence of Charlie Parker. A lot of people have taken the music in a lot of different directions, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who has not reckoned with the music of Charlie Parker, the music of bebop, the music that he and Dizzy Gillespie basically co-invented together. Bebop came out of a style of improvisation and style of jazz that was really much more considered to be dance music. And when Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie in particular, who brought Charlie Parker into his band also, they formed this music that was much quicker, much more in the upper structures of the chords rather than just the 1, 3, 5, or 7 of the chords. They were playing up on the 9s and the 13s and the 11s and the 7s, so on the upper structures of the chords. And kind of invented this whole new style of playing, along with Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. We had people like Thelonious Monk, Max Roach, Miles Davis, of course. The list goes on and on. Sonny Rollins came out of that time period as well. This was on the backs of people like Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young, Ben Webster, Louis Armstrong, of course. There's many people that sort of paved the way for bebop. But when it came out, man, it was a revolution. It was like when Stravinsky hit, you know. And Charlie Parker was known actually to be a lover of Stravinsky's music. And he would carry around scores underneath his arms and study them. And there are stories of people showing up at Charlie Parker's house and to find him like in his bathrobe with a clarinet, improvising over Stravinsky's Rite of Spring or Firebird. And so Charlie Parker had his ears to the contemporary music of the day, and he brought that sophistication to bebop, to that language. And so that's some of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight also. Charlie Parker, when he got to New York, when he was 19 years old, had to wash dishes for a living. And it wasn't like he just got there and suddenly took the town by storm. So for any of you young musicians out there, once things open up out of this pandemic, nothing just happens overnight. There's nobody that's suddenly a star. And there's long hours. There's stories of Charlie Parker practicing 15, 16 hours a day for a period of about 3 years when he was in his teens. And for me, as a young college student, that was inspiring. I was practicing 8 to 12 hours a day every day for a period of about 4 years, and then I backed down to between 6 and 8 hours a day. This was for 5 years when I was at college at University of North Texas. And people like Charlie Parker and John Coltrane, stories of John Coltrane falling asleep while practicing, which actually happened to me yesterday. That was inspiring to me, to work so hard that you fall asleep with the horn in your mouth. And so that's happened a lot, for me in particular. And maybe I just need to sleep more. But Charlie Parker's recording, his first recording, was when he was 20 years old in 1940 in New York City. And then he went along, as I said, to play with people like Thelonious Monk, Billy Eckstine, Father Earl Hines, Max Roach, Charles Mingus, Miles Davis. And then the influence of those musicians from there really ventured forth and we're still feeling those effects today. And somebody says Charlie Parker, Maceo Parker, greatness. Absolutely. Yeah, Maceo Parker, that he knows who Charlie Parker is, of course. There's a very famous club in New York City called Birdland. That was named for Charlie Parker. He was looked at as like the guy. It was Birdland. It was like the land of Charlie Parker. So they named a club after him. And I think that he's the only guy that's ever had a jazz club named after him in New York City. In Nashville, Tennessee, we have Rudy's Jazz Room, which is named for Rudy Wooten, one of the Wooten brothers, who was a saxophonist. He passed away a number of years ago. I think it's been 10 years now. So that kind of legacy continues. That spirit continues on as well. In 1955, the year that Charlie Parker passed away, I think it was about a week before Bird passed, in March of 1955, he played his last gig, fittingly enough, at Birdland in New York City. He passed away, and the coroner estimated his age to be in his 60s, because, again, his body was so ravaged by drugs and alcohol. He had just, he had basically killed himself through self-abuse, which is a terrible thing, and that happened a pretty fair amount back in the day, and we've lost some great musicians even these days to drugs and alcohol, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. So, take those as lessons. Take care of yourself, and you can have a great long career. And it's beautiful to be able to see people like Wayne Shorter, who have had a very long career. People like Henry Threadgill. Dexter Gordon, sort of. He died. Fairly young. Miles Davis died fairly young. Steve Grossman just passed at the age of 69 years old. We've got people like Dave Liebman still around. We had Freddie Hubbard for a long time. Lee Morgan tragically died young. So Lee Konitz just passed recently. Lee Konitz had a great career. Lived to be, I think, like 80 some odd years old, 89 years old maybe. But, speaking of Lee Konitz, Charlie Parker had a lot of disciples. Lee Konitz was one of those people. Phil Woods was one of those people. Cannonball Adderley was one of those people. And there's many contemporary players who are heavily influenced by Charlie Parker. And so, I'm influenced by Charlie Parker, Kirk Whalum, Tia Fuller, just so many great musicians. Michael Brecker, John Coltrane, of course, Sonny Rollins. So I'm going to get into playing some stuff for you. I'm going to play some alto for you. I'm going to play some flute. I've done a couple of drawings that if anybody's interested, let me know, and I will be selling those and donating the money for them to Music Cares. And I will send them to you. You can frame them if you'd like. They're line drawings. But I want to read you this. So this is a downbeat from 1957. I'm going to show this to you. Had the great Rosemary Clooney, who was George Clooney's, is it his grandmother, his mom? I don't know. But anyways, this is the great Rosemary Clooney on the front of this. And I want to say hi to Yuko. Yuko's listening from Japan. My sister-in-law. Hey, Yuko. Love you. Hope you're doing great. And I think my mom is listening. Hey, Mom. Love you, too. And my wife might be listening from inside, but I don't think so. I think she has a class tonight. But anyhow, thanks to everybody once again for tuning in. Don't forget Wayne Shorter. Yeah, I mentioned Wayne Shorter a couple of different times already. The great Wayne Shorter. So this is a Charlie Parker record called Bird at St. Nick's. So Charlie Parker and Red Rodney on trumpet, Al Haig on piano, Tommy Potter on bass, and the great Roy Haynes on drums. Roy Haynes is still around, I believe. And they gave it a 4-star rating out of 5. And it said, because it is one of the few recordings on which Parker can be heard under fairly typical playing conditions, working before an audience, only a few Norman Granz items in the Black Market, Black Deuce Carnegie Hall concert 78s come to mind as others. This LP is of great value. This, despite the abysmally bad recording job, it was done on a home recorder and picked up only Bird solos, making it just a collection of chunks and pieces. And the wordless but incessant crowd sounds that at times all but obscure the music. Yeah, people love to talk during music. I don't understand that. It seems like if you're there to listen, you're there to listen. Bird gets a chance to stretch out here, and to those who never heard him work in person, it will help to confirm what so often has been said. You had to hear him over an evening to realize what an immensely inventive and agile musician he was. To those who have entire recorded libraries of Parker, and apparently there are many, this LP will become a significant addition. To those who have heard Parker only in recording studios, it will be a worthwhile listening experience. I only wish I had such a recording of Bix Beiderbecke, or Louis Armstrong in the late 20s, for example, no matter how badly it might have been recorded. So again, this is Downbeat Magazine, which is still around. This from 1957. And so it's kind of cool, actually. I just noticed this on the back. There's an advertisement from Besson Trumpets. They have Ruby Braff and Conrad Gozzo, Bobby Hackett, Max Kaminsky, Louis Mucci, Labert Lombardo, and the great Miles Davis. It's pretty cool. There's some really amazing ads in here as well. So anyhow, it's Downbeat Magazine. Check it out if you get a chance. What I'm going to do, I think I'm going to start off playing a little alto saxophone. My Yamaha alto saxophone, my 82Z Alto, with my heritage neck from Jack Finucane, and Ted Klum mouthpiece, and some Jack Finucane reeds on here. Boston Saxophone Shop, bostonsaxshop.com. Hope you'll check them out. And you can also link them from my website, jeffcoffin.com. But I think I'm going to start off by playing Happy Birthday to Charlie Parker, and try to pull from some stylistic influences from Bird as well. So here we go. Yeah, happy birthday to Charlie Parker. Happy birthday to Charlie Parker. Tomorrow marks the 100th year birthday, the 100 years of Charlie Parker. Again, born August 29th, 1920. Passed away March 12th, 1955. 34 years of age. Okay, so the next, well, so if you have any questions also, hey, Glenn Herbst, what are you doing on here? What's happening, Glenn? Glenn's an old roommate of mine from North Texas and a wonderful instructor. Hope you're doing okay after all that crazy weather you all just had down in Texas. But he's a band director in Texas. I think he's still down in Texas. And but man, what a great thing to see your name on here. Appreciate you checking it out. Yeah, so I'm going to show you a couple of these line drawings that I've done. Oh, first of all, if you have any questions, dump them into the comments, and my friend and assistant Julia, who is on the other side of whatever the other side of this is, she will put them into a note for me, and I'll get to them. So I have two line drawings that I've done, and if you're interested in these, you can, put something up, put an email up, and we'll get back in touch with you. Or you can email me from my website, jeffcoffin444@gmail.com. And but this is a line drawing that I did, and whatever money comes from these will go, 100% of this money will go directly to Music Cares, which helps people, helps musicians who need assistance. And here's the second one, signed and labeled Charlie Parker in commemorance of Charlie Parker's 100th birthday. Again, these are line drawings, single line drawings. The pen doesn't leave the page. And so again, if you're interested, go ahead and email me at jeffcoffin444@gmail.com. And just let me know. First come, first serve, if the price is right. I don't even know what I'm charging. I'm doing this completely by the seat of my pants. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play a Charlie Parker solo for you. This is from what's called the Omni book. This is something that we all work out of. And this is a book of transcriptions of Charlie Parker solos, all these different solos from Charlie Parker. And I'm going to play one called Moose the Mooch for you. And I am going to play it to a track. There's a program called iReal Pro. And iReal Pro is basically a bunch of backing tracks that you can play to. And so I'm going to play to that here. I'm going to record this, and then let you check it out. Maybe I'll put it out for 24 or 48 hours so you can check it out. But this is a transcription of a Charlie Parker solo, again on a tune called Moose the Mooch. You can see it here. It's 2 pages. Melody on the left side, solo on the right. And I'm going to do my best in this light to play it. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so that's Moose the Mooch. And actually, I have to do it again because I didn't record it. I hit the wrong button. So like I said last week, you know, you get what you pay for. And let's not forget this is free. All right, I'm going to do one more time for you, and I'm going to actually record it this time. Okay. I actually did record it that time. You know, shit happens. So, the other thing that I want to do for you, since I'm playing, I'm gonna. Well, let me also tell you that I have a brand new book that just came out that I'm very excited about. It's a flute etude book. It's 10 improvisational flute etudes. And put my alto down. It's 10 improvisational flute etudes. And the print-on-demand book has just come out this week. And basically what I did is I went through different standards, jazz standards. If you don't know what a jazz standard is, by the way, a jazz standard is a tune that is considered to be standard repertoire, hence the word standard, in the jazz community. And there are tunes that we basically all know, tunes like All the Things You Are, There Will Never Be Another You, Stella by Starlight, Have You Met Miss Jones, etc., etc. Certain Charlie Parker tunes are considered standards also. Tunes like Confirmation, Billy's Bounce, Moose the Mooch, etc., etc. There's a bunch of different ones. Yardbird Suite. And so in this flute book, this flute etude book, what I did is I went through and went through and picked certain standards that I felt really comfortable on. And so I played flute on them, and then I went back and I transcribed myself when I was, quote-unquote, happy with how I had played. Ask any musician, they'll usually tell you they're not really that happy with the way they play. We're always kind of striving to get to another level with things. But I feel really good about these, and I put them together. I spent a bunch of money to get them into Sibelius and get the engraving done, so they look awesome. These are just the loose printouts of it, but you can see. And but you can go to jeffcoffin.shop, jeffcoffin.shop, also jeffcoffin.com. But you can find links to the book there. It's called 10 Improvisational Flute Etudes. And I'm going to be putting out a book of 10 improvisational clarinet etudes, which are these exact same etudes transposed for clarinet. So keep your eyes and ears out for those. So this is based off of Charlie Parker's tune Confirmation, the changes to the tune Confirmation. And I'm going to play this for you, again, with a backing track, so that you can hear the changes going by as it's happening. And also, you can, this book comes with free streaming MP3s and free downloads of me playing these solos. So you can go to jeffcoffin.com/flute, and that'll get you right there. So without further ado, I'm going to play this solo, and I hope you enjoy it. Oh, I called it The Answer Is Yes. Confirmation, the answer is yes. There's a bunch of really bad dad jokes for these titles. Okay. That's not part of the tune. It is now. Basically just blowing warm air through the instrument to make sure that that it's warm enough. By the way, this is a Yamaha flute. I love my Yamaha instruments. This is a really gorgeous flute. It's a 600 series with a 900 series head joint for all you nerds out there like me. Okay, here we go. Put myself in record just for the heck of it. And this is called The Answer Is Yes from 10 improvisational flute etudes. Available now at jeffcoffin.shop, or you can go to my website, jeffcoffin.com, or you can also go to jeffcoffin.com/flute. Here we go. Okay, so that's The Answer Is Yes, and it's a transcribed improvisational solo that I did off of Charlie Parker's tune called Confirmation. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the tune again, but I'm just going to solo over the tune this time. I'm not going to play the transcription. I am just going to play over the tune itself. Okay? And maybe I'll throw this one out there too for you, just to check out. Okay, so that was me playing over the chord changes of Charlie Parker's Confirmation, and so I hope you enjoyed that. I sure do enjoy playing flute. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so what else do we have here that I wanted to do for you tonight? Well, we only have a couple minutes left. Usually I try to end this around 1:45. I do want to let you know also that one of the reasons that I do these live streams every Friday from my studio here in Nashville, not only do I love to connect with everybody, and I'm super excited when people come on and check it out, but I'm also raising money for local musicians through the iTA Studio Streams website. You can go to itastudiostreams.com, and there's a PayPal link there. Anything that you donate there will go to local Nashville musicians. Everybody is still out of work. There's no live gigs, or very few, very, very, very few. We're not sure when that's going to be allowed again. Hopefully in the not too distant future, but we'll see. We've got to keep everybody safe, obviously. Agree with it or disagree with it, it's here. Almost 200,000 people have perished from this virus. And I would implore you and beg you, ask you from the bottom of my heart to please wear your masks. If it's not to protect yourself, it's to protect other people. And I do that. I've got one in my studio. I've got one in my car. I've got one in my house. I've got extras in my car. If you need an extra one, let me know. I'll come find you and drop one off with you. But please, just keep yourselves and other people safe. Thank you for doing that. Anyways, the itastudiostreams.com website. You can donate there through the PayPal link. There's no amount that's too small, certainly no amount that's too large. We will have raised over $10,000 through these last 6 months. And as soon as I'm able to start having people back up here to play, I'll be able to pay them like it's a real gig. And we'll be able to do this through the fall and probably into 2021 as well. So the link is up there on the Facebook page. Thank you, Julia, for putting it up there. And hey, greetings from Argentina. Leonardo, what's happening? What's happening? Thanks for tuning in from Argentina. Okay, so here's a question. How did I get from UNT to Nashville? Well, I'm originally from New England, and when I went to the University of North Texas, after I left, I was coming through Nashville on my way back to New England, and one of my stops was Nashville. The other stop was Washington, D.C. Had a great friend here, Richard Aspinwall, who just had a baby. Congratulations, Rich. And Glenda, his wife, and Victoria, their daughter. So I stopped here for about a week and kind of fell in love with it. I was sort of like, wow, this is a really cool little town. And one of the things that appealed to me about Nashville then, which still appeals to me now, is that you can get into the woods very quickly. There's a lot of really great parks here. And the people were super cool. That's Southern hospitality, which is so nice. And so I went to D.C. I almost joined the Navy. I got offered the lead tenor chair in the Navy Commodores twice, and both times it was taken back and eventually given to someone else. Phil, I don't remember Phil's last name, who is still with the band, I think retiring maybe this next year. And Phil's had a great career with the Navy, and he's a wonderful musician, and I'm so happy for him that he got that gig. That obviously wasn't my path. So I went on a cruise ship for a couple of months into the Caribbean, where I met a very dear friend, Bill Fanning, who's a great trumpet player up in Massachusetts now. And but he lived here in Nashville for a while. He and I have played many, many, many gigs together, recorded many records together. He's been part of the Mutet since the inception of the Mutet. And so I went on that for about 2.5 months, moved to Nashville in January of 1991. Next year will be 30 years, which is hard to believe. I have great friends and family down here, incredible, incredible musicians who I adore, and I miss playing with them so much during these times. But we will get a chance again, and we all stay in touch, which is awesome. And so yeah, I decided to move to Nashville. I felt it was a good place to hang my hat. I thought about New York. Everybody I knew in New York at that time was super dark, and I just I couldn't do it. I thought about San Francisco to study with Joe Henderson, the great saxophone player. But he said that he was never really there much, and there wasn't much of a scene going on. So I decided to move to Nashville. And so here I've been. And I started touring with Bela Fleck and the Flecktones in 1997. Started touring with Dave Matthews Band in 2008. I overlapped with those two bands for 2 years. And so it's been 12 years now with Dave Matthews Band, which is incredible. And very thankful and grateful for that. Okay, in another question, in DMB circa 2009-2010, you and Carter had a sax drum duel on 41. Any chance of a version of that coming back? So enjoyable. Thank you. Well, the beautiful thing about Dave Matthews Band is that we keep changing arrangements through the years. Solos will morph and change. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that that's coming back. I don't know that it's not. We just kind of move on from things, you know, and which is great. And but I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. With your celebrity, how do you and your wife handle going out in public and being recognized all the time? You know, it's only challenging when we're on tour and we're trying to go out for dinner or take a walk down the street and there's a bunch of fans around, and everybody wants to say hello, which is a really beautiful thing. Sometimes a challenge, though, when I'm trying to spend time with my wife, who I don't get to see very often because I'm on the road. So, you know, sometimes the answer is, unfortunately, I don't have time right now. Catch me later. Because here's the thing. If I'm making a choice between my wife, spending time with my wife, or spending time with fans, there's no choice there. I'm going to be spending time with my wife. As much as I love the fans and love to interact with them, I love my wife even more because she's awesome and amazing. But Nashville is cool. You know, I mean, sometimes people say hello, but Nashville has so many quote-unquote celebrities in it that nobody really bothers anybody, you know. So it's cool. But I'll say this, that I appreciate people coming up and saying hello, or hey, I enjoy your music, any of those things. I mean, who doesn't appreciate that, you know? I'm so grateful for the fact that people listen to what I do. So thank you for that question. As a melodic instrumentalist, most of the time I try to be melodic. Are you proficient on piano, which is more harmonic? And if not, how do you transform your thinking when writing your own music or reading these improv books? I am not proficient on piano. I play a fair amount of piano. I compose on piano. When I'm writing my own music, sometimes I'll compose on piano. Sometimes I'll compose on saxophone. It really just varies on the tune. And how does this transform my thinking when I'm writing my own music or even these improv books? Well, I think of harmony vertically as well as horizontally. And so when I'm teaching, I teach at Vanderbilt University. I've been there for 6 years. And I'm teaching remotely primarily this semester. But when I talk to my students about this, we're talking about music vertically in the arpeggio, in the chord, and horizontally as it's moving throughout the bar. I'm thinking about voice leading and how one note from one chord leads into the first note of the next chord, for example, and how to connect these things. I think of the arpeggios and the notes of the arpeggio as the skeletal system of the chord. So like a C7 chord, C, E, G, and B flat, that's like the skeletal system. If you don't know that, you're going to have a hard time playing over that chord. If you think of the human body with no skeletal system, we're just kind of a blob on the floor, right? There's no definition, no structure to it. So this is the way that I sort of conceptualize it. In these duo, or these etudes rather, there's nothing spectacular about what's going on harmonically. They're fairly simple in that way. But there's a lot of rhythmic aspects going on, a lot of displacement going on of rhythms. and so it's sort of an entry into sort of jazz harmony on flute and the jazz vernacular on flute. So again, for classical players, jazz players, it doesn't matter what style you play, you can work on these flute etudes. Again, jeffcoffin.com/flute, and you can listen to the MP3s for free, and also download the MP3s of me playing them for free. I hope that answers that question. So many hundreds of shows. Do you ever remember anything in particular or a specific show or song that stays with you? Yeah, from time to time, actually. Each of the shows that we do with Dave Matthews, and even on my own, they're very unique. They're very individualized, and so I do tend to remember them. They almost have a name. Each one of them almost has a name, you know. Sometimes when like things are really hitting, and you know, it's one of those nights. If I hear back a recording, I actually remember playing things. Like I put myself back in my body and remember playing certain things. It's a very strange sensation, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes. And it's hard to explain, but I can kind of put myself back into the moment. It's very interesting, very interesting. Where in New England am I from? Originally from Massachusetts. I was born in Marlborough, lived in Hudson for a few years. And when I was, I think, 6 or 7, we moved to Maine, a little town called Dexter, which is where I started playing under the direction of Arthur Lagasse, who's my director up there. Then I moved to New Hampshire, to Rochester, New Hampshire. I was under the direction of Doug Patch, who was my director in high school. And then I spent a little time at the University of New Hampshire under the tutelage of Dave Seiler and Charlie Jennison and some other folks there. Then I went to North Texas. So, yeah, New England always feels like a little slice of home for me, for sure. You came to Lawrence, Kansas. I almost said Lawrence, Texas. I'm so hungry. I'm starting to see things. You came to Lawrence, Kansas to work with students. Do you do that at many universities? Yes, I do a lot of clinic work with students, not only around the U.S., but when I travel abroad, I do that as well. I've done, you know, well over 325 clinics at this point in my career, and it's something I'm very passionate about and I love doing. I remember Lawrence, Kansas for a number of different reasons. A great friend of mine, Nathan Berg, is from Lawrence, Kansas, and I remember there was an article about him at North Texas, because he came to North Texas when he was 15. His dad, Chuck Berg, was a great educator. May he rest in peace. At the University of Kansas in Lawrence. I remember there was an article about Nathan, who now lives in New Zealand, and is like a leading world economist and still an amazing bass player. But in the article, they said erstwhile Laurentian Berg, which for whatever reason I still remember that. Erstwhile meaning former, so former Laurentian Berg. But I just thought it was just a really interesting play on words. Erstwhile Laurentian Berg. I just thought, what a great name for somebody. What's your name? Oh, my name is erstwhile Laurentian Berg, the third. Oh, man. I'm getting punchy here. Hey, Jeff, how was it when you first walked into music sessions with the Flecktones? Was it completely collaborative? Did it take time to start clicking? Well, it's interesting. The first time I sat in with the Flecktones was at a club here in Nashville called Cafe Milano, which was run by a gentleman named Pino Scolacci, who's still here in town. And I'd been doing some playing with Bela. He asked me to sit in. And the first time we played together, it just worked, you know. And he asked me if I would be interested in doing some road work with them. This was in 1997, and I said yes, of course. And I remember we had a couple of very short rehearsals for about maybe an hour, hour and a half, just to kind of run through some heads. And I had some sheet music that Paul McCandless had done for the band. And Paul McCandless is a saxophonist and oboist, English horn player, bass clarinet with the group Oregon. He's a brilliant, brilliant musician. If you haven't heard that group, I would highly recommend it. And so I remember like looking at the music on the bus on the way to Vermont where we were playing the first gig, and I was terrified. I was thinking, I said to Billy, I said, how am I going to know when to solo? He was like, oh, he said, just watch me. He says, I'll nod at you. thinking, oh God, my career is over. And I kid you not, like after the first gig, I'm sure Baylor must remember this. I went up to him after the first gig and I said, hey man, I said, I really appreciate the opportunity. I said, but I'm cool to get on a bus tomorrow and head back to Nashville. And I said, you know, what you guys are doing is at such a different league than where I'm at. And I don't want to hold you back. I said, your audience knows the music better than I do. And Baylor was like, he says, what are you talking about? He says, man, he says, that was great for a first night. He says, Richard has the DAT tapes. Go back and listen. He says, man, he says, just go get some rest. He says, you did great. He says, tomorrow's going to be a lot easier. And he was right. And I'll never forget that support and that advocacy and that encouragement. And so it meant a great deal to me that he believed in me that much, you know. And so, okay, well, it's time for me to get some dinner. And I'm going to play you a bit of a tune to head out here on. This is a tune that I'm going to be, we're getting actually, we've started recording with Band of Other Brothers, which is myself, Keith Carlock, Jeff Babko on keys, Keith Carlock on drums, Nir Felder on guitar, and the great Will Lee on bass. We did a record a few years ago called City of Cranes that we recorded here in Nashville at Blackbird Studios. And we are virtually in the studio again. We've started recording, and this is a tune. This is one of my 2 tunes that I put in. And I'm just waiting for everybody to finish the rhythm section stuff so that Nir and I can get in and start doing the melodies. But this is a tune called That's Just Gross, Man. And dedicated to Steve Grossman, who just passed about a week and a half ago. Great tenor saxophonist, certainly very influential on me. And so I'm going to play you a little bit of this as we head out. And once again, happy birthday to the great Charlie Parker, 100 years old tomorrow. And thank you for your contribution to music and to the saxophone. And his influence will live on for many, many, many years. And once again, if you're interested in either of these line drawings, get in touch. And I'll ship them out to you. And all the money that I generate from these drawings, and if I get more than 2 people interested, I'll draw some more. And but all the money that that I will send, or that gets sent from these drawings, and I'm going to say this, man, pay what you want. How about that? Pay what you want. But know that your donation is going to go to Music Cares, which will benefit musicians around the country, those that can't afford health care. So, you know, be generous if you can, but give what you can. And if I get more than 2 people that want something like this, I'll do more drawings for you, and I'll send them out. So thank you. And this tune, which you will hear in a more complete form down the road, is called That's Just Gross, Man, dedicated to the late, great Steve Grossman. Excited to have live drums and live musicians on this. Hey, Nozomi, thank you. You do great drawings too. Way better than mine. again for tuning in. Once again, itastudiostreams.com if you want to donate to local Nashville musicians. And once again, if you're interested in line drawings, I'll do a pay what you want. All the money that I get for these will go to Music Cares. And so be generous if you can. But once again, thank you, Charlie Parker. 100 years of Charlie Parker. And his influence cannot be overstated. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great night. And I'll see you next Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here on Facebook Live. And see you soon. Take care, everybody. Take good care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Peace out.